But without further ado, I'm very pleased to welcome Ally Kensington, who will be talking to us today about teaching secondary students to become confident speakers with Oracy. Now, Ally has been teaching for 18 years and spent 15 years as a teacher trainer, first with the British Council and more recently with Cambridge University Press and Assessment. She's developed skills in writing syllabuses and creating bespoke education programs. She's an improved speaking examiner and the founder and director of Kensington Ally Foreign and Education Consultancy. She also produces and presents educational programs for national Turkish television and consults with TV channels on e-learning and educational programs. So after that, it's over to you, Ally. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start sharing my slide. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. And let's get started. By the way, before we start, happy Teachers Day. I know it's Teachers Day, and I really appreciate those who are over here with us. I think that's the best gift you could have given me, honestly speaking. All right, we're going to be talking about teaching secondary students to become confident speakers with Oracy. I'd like to start off with my favorite quote. Sorry, there, okay, yeah. Gifted speakers are born and effective speakers are made. I believe you're asking, but how? The answer is simple, it's Oracy. I believe you have watched Neil Mercer and Sarah Lambert's talk today. It was really inspirational. It was so fruitful. To recap what was taught about Oracy, or let's say the definition of Oracy, I'll say Oracy is the ability to use spoken language effectively from Neil Mercer. Okay, now, why do we teach Oracy? What is the impact of Oracy on students and education? Let's take a look at that. Children's cognitive development and learning, learning in schools, children's preparation for participation in the wider world. Now, it is very important, and this leads me or us to what I say about Oracy, how I see Oracy. Oracy is a skill for life. Why do I say that? Because I do a lot of lesson observations and training sessions. And you know what? Sometimes I hear from teachers, it is Oracy lesson. Oracy is not a lesson. Oracy is a skill, or let's say Oracy skills are transferable to any language your students speak. It can be Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, Turkish, German, English, Spanish, it doesn't matter. And it can be it is transferable to any subject you're teaching, cross-curricular, curricular, it doesn't matter. And today we're going to be seeing examples of that. And another thing that I always say is, oopsie-daisy, considering the importance of being an effective communicator, not only for presenting or discussing, but also for daily life. Why do I say that? Because once you're finished at school learning, what you do is you return to real life and you socialize. And you know what I say? Whatever we teach our students at school, the best way to practice is out of the school. It's daily life, real life experience, and merging whatever they learn in school in real life. Last but not the least, a very important thing. Focus on skills you want to develop and work on them constantly and systematically. Why am I saying that? Because we're teachers. We teach our students vocabulary or grammar. We teach it today. And tomorrow, half of it is gone. How do we make sure our students learn it, internalize it? Is we do a lot of recycles. We do a lot of rehearsals. We bring this, that, but we practice it a lot, right? So this is the same thing for Oracy as well. Once you teach it, don't close your books and leave the books on the side. Practice, extend it, stretch it. And I'm going to show you how we're going to be doing it today. Okay, now talking about Oracy, we talked about the definition of Oracy, or what is Oracy. We talked about the impact, which we're going to be going in deeper. We're going to be going deeper of the impact on education and students. But before doing that, what I want you to do is close your eyes, and I want you to visualize your good speaker idol, your role model. What kind of skills make a good speaker? What kind of skills make a good speaker? Just contemplate, think about, visualize. That role model can be your mother, it can be your father, or a friend or colleague or grandparents, doesn't matter. But visualize that person and hit the chat box. I'm dying to read your answers. Wow, fantastic, confidence, enthusiasm. Think about it, everything. Clear and to be clear and persuasive, fantastic, energetic, use words eloquently, very nice, voice tone, ability to attract attention, confidence, exactly, visualize that person, logical thinking, okay, innovation, all right, confidence and competence, engaged, fantastic, guys are amazing. Okay, ooh, more answers are pouring in. Sincere, enthusiastic, and use body language, great feeling, body language, good accent, engaging, sense of humor, yay. Exactly. Now, let's take a look at the things, the good skills, and how it's reflected on Oracy, or what kind of skills are kind of equivalent to those things that we're thinking. Okay. What I say is, while watching a person, we first notice a physical appearance. Sure, when you encounter someone, the first thing before they talk, before you can just have the conversation, the thing is the body language, the physical. You just look at them, the way they look, the posture, the way they stand, the way they use their hands, the way they talk. Are they building eye contact? That is the Oracy skill, which is physical. And the breakdown skills, voice and body language. Now, while watching a speaker, we listen to the words they choose to deliver their message. True. It is true, because not only the language they use, also the humor, as one of your friends said over here in the chat box, rhetorical techniques. So that is linguistic skills for Oracy. And these are the breakdown skills. Next, while watching a speaker, we focus on how they deliver their talk, ask and respond to questions. I'm sorry. It is clearly the cognitive level. It's the cognitive skill. Today in the talk, there was something that Sarah said. It was, I think, very, very wise, and that was actually summarizing the cognitive skill. It's not the quantity, it's the quality. Yes, you can have all of these, skills, but if one missing, and especially cognitive is missing, it's not all good Oracy anymore. And the last one, while watching a speaker, we focus on the respect they show or connection they build, terribly sorry, they build with their audience. And that is social emotional skills and the breakdown. Now, another very important thing which makes Oracy this unique is the Oracy framework and ground rules. First, let's take a look at the ground rules. I believe you have classroom rules. I believe the answer is, of course it is. Okay, now, again, I want you to visualize. You can even hit the chat box. If you didn't have classroom rules, what would your class look like? Please hit the chat box. If you didn't have classroom rules, yes, that is a great one. Chaotic, chaos, exactly, chaos. Yes, I see more. Market, messy. I love it. Great answers. Great answers. Yes, mess, chaos, uncontrolled, end of the world. Very creative. Disaster. Yes, true. So we need chaotic class. Market is still flowing. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Problems. Exactly. So we have Oracy rules as well. Oracy ground rules. Number one, to create classroom routines, like we do with the classroom rules. Another thing about it is to create crystal clear process on each Oracy activity. Now, if we want our students to really apply to use it in the classroom, there's one thing. For students to make sense of these rules and to apply them, they have to understand the reasons behind them. Surely, For instance, raising a hand before talking. Yes, students know if they talk without raising their hands, it's going to be chaos, as you mentioned. Or if somebody's like going to sharpen or do something, take water, and if it's not controlled, the classroom will turn into chaos. True, but there is a sense behind it. They understand if there is classroom rules, what happens, and if there are no classroom rules, what will happen? They definitely know that because you made it explicitly understandable. Now we have to do that for Oracy ground rules as well. Let's say, what I say is two great tools to make them understand the reason behind this: role playing and asking the right questions. Let's say we're going through the ground rules and I want them to really understand what is everyone should listen carefully, active listening. I like doing the role play, and the age doesn't matter. All of the students love doing role playing, or they understand from role playing. So what I do is I invite a student in front of the classroom and I pretend like I'm not listening. No eye contact, no echoing, no asking or responding to questions or their talk. I'm just looking around. And after that, I ask them the question, how did you feel? What did you think? And generally, well, I haven't missed that. All of the students said, I felt horrible, and turn to the rest of the class and say, how would you feel? Build empathy. When you link emotions with ideas, thoughts, it becomes stronger. They understand and they start building empathy. Last but not least, start the lesson with remembering and repeating the ground rules so students can internalize them. This is the reality. What we learn becomes who we are. So eventually, the more we practice this with our students, the more we get our students to really understand, then they will start internalizing it. Now, we talked about ground rules as well. Of course, I bet you're asking, how are we going to implement Oracy in our classes? There's a way, and I'm going to show you. Very simple. We're going to be following presentation, practice, and production stages. Why do I like this stage, like this approach? Is because I did a lot of research on how to make the things that we teach in the classroom memorable. And these three stages, presentation, practice, and production, makes it more memorable. At the end of the day, you introduce something, but if it just falls into short-term memory and we cannot convert that knowledge into long-term memory, what happens is we say bye-bye to that knowledge. But we don't want that. Our time is precious. We give a lot of energy. We devoted ourselves for this job. So we try to make the best. So we're going to be doing the same thing. But before that, yes, how are we going to start with teaching, implementing Oracy? In principle, an Oracy curriculum could be constructed to cover all of the specific skills in each category of the Oracy skills framework. In practice, which is in reality, teachers will have to be selective, focusing on those features which they judge that their students need most. Going back to the beginning of the session, I remember mentioning that whatever you teach, you need to teach it constantly and systematically and focus on the same skill again and again until they internalize it. Okay. Now, this is a framework, and I took this one from Cambridge Primary Path. Let's say I want to focus on cognitive skills. Okay, step 1. And step 2, I select my student level, which is developing. Let's say my students are developing level. Then I say, which one shall I pick? I'll go with number 3. I can use evidence to support an argument. That is the thing I'm going to be teaching my students. That is the thing I will be recycling, and I'll be following the 3 stages. Let's start. Presentation stage. I call it introduction stage. This is where we start implementing, rooting knowledge. I'm terribly sorry. Okay. Okie dokie. Now, start off with explanation and example. We were talking about giving evidence to support an argument. And what does it mean? To make a strong argument, it is important to give information supporting your opinion and give an example. Okay. Now, they need the language to use it, right? They need language to use, which you have talked about. Another unique point of Oracy, the cue card. Let's take a look at the language. I agree because, for example, I disagree because, I think da-da-da-da is important because. Now, I'm not just saying you need to be following this strictly. You can do it inductive or deductive way. It's totally okay. You give an example and then you start eliciting ideas, and then you also ask what kind of language can we use to support an evidence. You can elicit these things, or you can go in a normal pace, giving the explanation, example, and language. It's all about you. It's all about the way you teach. And on top of everything, what I say is, as teachers, we're the conductors. You know how to make them play their instruments. You're going to manage them. So you know their differentiation, you know their level. Choose the way you would like to introduce. Let's say we introduced it, but surely they need to see a model, how it's going to be done. What I always say is, as a teacher, you can pick a strong student and you can demonstrate it. Or you can pick two students, strong students, and get them to perform it. Okay, you say, I don't want to do any of these. Another alternative. What you can do, you can invite a teacher into your class and you can practice it together. You can model it together, or you can ask a friend, Zoom, record it, and share it in the classroom. I mean, but they have to see modeling how things are going to be done. So explanation, example, language, and model. That is the introduction. That is the presentation stage. Now, what about the practice? Practice is very important, as we mentioned, long-term memory, short-term memory. We want this knowledge to go into long-term memory. Whatever we teach, we want it to be there. Also, this is the stage what I call do it or practice it until you become it. Straight. Okay, how are we going to practice? Now, choose a topic, if possible. Choose a topic, Khalil base, or a topic where it's going to nurture or help your students to develop cognitive skills. So that was a topic I have chosen. Imagine your students have a new garden. What would you like to grow there? What would you like to grow there? Okay, why? Plan your garden. A simple topic. It's not very challenging, but it needs creative and critical thinking. Group your students. You can pair them. You can make a group of 3, 4, 5. As I said, you are the conductor. Choose, decide the way you would like to get them to perform or complete the task or do the task. And surely ground rules. After repeating, get your students to talk to each other, work together. And after they complete the task, what happens? I see the chat box. Okay. Alrighty. I say self-assessment or peer assessment. You can either bring questions like this into the classroom. I participated in the discussion, yes or no, or I supported my argument with evidence. Or you can take it further. You can get your students to talk about what went well or what can be done to make it better. That kind of questions are more constructive, let's say more developing questions. Okay, and second stage. Is it done? No. The most important stage is coming. The more they produce, this is where students start turning input into output. It is necessary, it's important. If you want to make the knowledge memorable, meaning that once you do the practice, you finish it, don't put the books aside. Carry Oracy out of your classroom. And how are we going to do that? Now, number one, merging Oracy with curricular lessons. You teach them vocabulary, you teach them grammar, you teach them reading, writing, and even sometimes exam preparation. So I brought something into the class for you, something that maybe you taught the vocabulary and you want to practice it, something that you can, this topic is something that you can use in daily life as well. Let's take a look at it. It's your friend's birthday soon, and you would like to buy her a present. Here are some ideas. Talk together about the different presents you could buy and say which would be the most suitable. Okay. Why not bringing Oracy into the classroom? Why not? Perfect opportunity. What kind of, first direct this question to your students, what kind of language would you need to support an argument by using evidence? Get the language, elicit the language. Once it's there, second step, it is the ground rules. If they're going to merge, if we're merging Oracy with any curricular or cross-curricular lesson, it doesn't matter. Ground rules is a must. So the conversation will go something like that. I think we can buy some flowers because everybody loves them. And respond from student B, sorry. That's a good point, but what kind of flowers should we buy? A very random, a very normal conversation in the classroom. Yes, but we want to invite the third student. Student B turns and asks, what do you think? And the answer from student C would be something like this. I disagree with both of you because she might have allergies. You see, this was just a normal activity in the classroom. Maybe you were recycling or you taught vocabulary or grammar or exam preparation, whatever you name it. But the way we merged Oracy into a curricular lesson, that's simple. There are a couple of things that you need to bear in mind. Argumentative notion, that was a nice one. I'm just sometimes looking at the chat box as well. Okay, what about, let's increase the challenge. And please don't forget, you need to, your students need to rotate asking and answering and supporting their argument with using evidence. It has to rotate between students. Okay, what about, let's increase the challenge as I said, before increasing, that's my bad. Okay, what about for students? Now you might be saying, Ally, well, we have some students who don't like to participate. When we make a group of 3, one is always the odd one and that student doesn't want to participate. I have a solution for that. This is something that I created. Internal constructive pat on the shoulder, penalizing versus encouragement. Now, there is something that we really need to understand, that it is whenever there is, I don't believe in reward and punishment system, but I believe in rewarding, sharing, supporting, good attitude. I always reward that. I always appreciate that in the classroom. Now, what are we going to do? Oracy the skill to communicate effectively with each other, but not only to deliver a presentation or discuss things, it is also to give the right verbal support. Now, what we talked about was Oracy, talking confidently, expressing yourself, this and that, okay. But if a student is not producing language and doesn't want to participate, what are we going to do? Okay, let's say we paired our students and one is not talking. The other one turns and says, come on, let's remember the ground rule or the Oracy rule, or says, you can do it, or let's try again. Another way of doing this, I'm just going to check out the chat box I see. This is a new idea. I'm happy that you you appreciate that. Okay, another version of doing this. Okay, what I say, create a list of constructive language. Ask your students, how would you like to receive support? What kind of wording would you like to hear? This is an open thing. I mean, you need to be asking. It's not always us deciding. They have to be decided on the language they want to be talked about or they want to receive. So, and hang it on the classroom wall. I'm sorry. Then what you can do is, while you're monitoring your students walking around, if you see someone who's not answering, just pat on your student's shoulder or just say, take a look at the list. Get them to use the language to their friends. Let them internalize it. And next time when they have a problem like this, or someone is shy, they will just directly go to the list and use a constructive language. Now, sometimes we warn students, and that might not be that, let's say, constructive for them. But when they receive a constructive language or a good praise from a friend, that is a stronger way of, let's say, building the trust. And what about the benefits? Increases participation, yes, and collaboration. My friend is supporting me. My friend believes in me, and I feel much better. Immediately we'll be saying how the phase of the classroom is changing once they implement it. Raises awareness and motivation. I mean, we all had problems at school. There were bad days, there were good days, there were some days that you didn't want to talk. And if someone says, hey, come on, let's do it, how would you feel? Use empathy. Think about it. Put yourself into their shoes with positive respond. It will work. The only thing, building empathy. Okay, moving on. Now, as I said, let's increase the challenge, and let's look at the cross-curricular lesson merging with Oracy. It can be any kind of subject. Today I picked up science, but you can easily merge it with history, math, geography. I mean, I witnessed, because this is the thing I've been working for a while. I want Oracy to expand to different, let's say, subjects. And I've seen science being done in the classroom, geography and history as well. The results are amazing. How are we going to do that? Let's say you had a lesson on living things in the environment, came to the end, and you came across with a great question. Perfect opportunity. Talk about it. What would animals and humans eat if we had no plants? Oops, sorry, that's my bad. Okay, that's a great question. It's versatile. It's expands to different places and different situations. You can talk about geography and science at the same time. Total clue we're talking about. Okay, second step, pair your students or make a group of 3 or 4, depending on you. As I said, you are the conductor. You are the one who's going to decide, because you know your students better than everyone. Next stage, the language, the skills. Giving evidence to support an argument. But I've also added another thing. Why not merging more than one Oracy skills? Expressing opinion, okay? And if you want to add richness to students' speech, give them another one. Organizing and structuring a talk. What happens is, I'm also an assessor. And when it comes to exams, sometimes that we see students' lack of discourse markers, and the conversation goes like and endless ands. But if we're seeking for richness in the language, give them extra tool, give them good discourse markers so they can organize and structure their talk. See what I'm implementing bit by bit, but still our core is giving evidence to support an argument. We're still over there. Okay, and surely what we have to do is remember and repeat the Oracy ground rules. I'm sorry. Okay. Again, you might be saying, well, we have been implementing the pet on the shoulder system, but we want something more engaging. Okay, I'll say, why don't you do talk detective? Write the Oracy skills that you want your students to practice. Give them the grid. Give them the grid. They're going to be using collaboration, monitoring, active listening. See how many things you're doing at the same time. They're observing their friends. They're learning from each other. And honestly speaking, I believe this is a great assessment tool, peer assessment tool. Write down the, write down the Oracy skills that you like to practice in the classroom. Give a copy to all students and get them to start doing it. Now, there is a further note part over here. For instance, are they expressing their opinion? Yes. Alex expressed how. Justify your answer. Over here, this column is to justify, right there, justified answer. He said this, for instance. That's the way it is. And it makes the conversation more, let's say, effective at the end of the day. They're all listening to each other. They're writing notes. They're actively listening, and they're talking at the same time. And it's more like a correction system in the system. It's a little correction action system. Okay, now merging Oracy with real world problem solving. Actually, it was two headings: real world problems and problem solving. So I combined it. Now we're in the very interesting era, and we talked about critical thinking skills and creative thinking skills for especially fostering, or let's say developing cognitive skills. So bringing a lot of problem solving topics or real world problem solving cases in the classroom is going to help your students to practice their Oracy, practice their cognitive skills, and apart from that, the language, the richness of the language is going to be even greater. Okay, this was a discussion card which was from COP 2026 resources prepared for schools by WWF. When I came across with this, I was like, okay, this is the thing I was looking for, a real world problem. How are we going to be doing it? Either you can select an Oracy skill or refresh their memory. Get them to brainstorm. Now, there's a discussion, brainstorming, create and present. So you're combining discussion and presentation skills together and reflection. So, and of course, last but not the least, we need to be remembering the ground rules. This is another way of extending Oracy out of the classroom. Or I was thinking, when I was coming up with this activity, I was thinking like a newspaper, but I used Padlet. Now this is something different. Oracy topic of the month. Again, select the same topic, but this time, group them and get your students to come up with earth-friendly names, like group Earth lovers. Get them to video themselves when they're discussing. Task after that is they have to go and interview a friend and record it. So what are we doing actually? We're combining discussion and presentation together. Make a list, get them to write their solutions. What kind of solution did they come up with? And Oracy skills, the Oracy skills they have used. I use evidence to support my idea. Kate says, I spoke clearly and loudly. Ivan says, I listened actively to my friends within our group discussion. So it's a collage, everything's coming together, and this is going to be live. Think about it, every time they go to Padlet, they can watch. This is a great assessment tool. In Turkey, we have done a competition. It was a project actually, good Oracy, good versus bad Oracy. You don't need to say bad Oracy, you can say not Oracy as well. During the pandemic, schools wanted to do something and they wanted to see their students' progress. So eventually, we came out with this project. Students were shooting 2 videos, one good Oracy, one, let's say, not Oracy or bad Oracy. And they could see the difference when they have Oracy skills and when they don't have Oracy skills. Perfect assessment tool. This is as well. You don't need to give them an exam. You don't need to do anything. This is a live assessment tool. They see for themselves and they know what to do better next time. You can even open up a discussion in the classroom. So some of the references, if you want to continue further your study, some of the references I'm sharing with you, maybe you'd like to continue the research. Any questions?
Well, thank you so much, Ali. That was fascinating. Made what could be sounds maybe initially like a complicated concept seem very accessible, very useful, and also very practical and achievable, which has been fascinating to listen to. And looking at the chat, the comments have back me up on that. It's not just me saying so.
You know what, Oliver, this is the thing. I just want to add something. Whenever I talk with teachers, they see Oracy as just a lesson. It is not just a lesson. I remember it was 2 years ago when we were talking about Oracy together. It is so vast. There's so many things can be done. Carry it out of the classroom. Make it real life. Use it as many as, like, don't close the book and just leave it on the side. Make it more productive, fast. I love the comments, guys. I mean, by the way, while I'm talking, I'm taking a look at the comments. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions?
We've got a few minutes left for questions, just looking at the clock. And so if people do have any, please do put them in the Q&A box, as I mentioned at the beginning. If I can start with one. Students usually fumble in real-world setting versus classroom talk. Where and why does classroom eloquence disappear in such cases?
Okay, that's an interesting one. Students usually fumble. Where does the classroom eloquence disappear in such cases? Well, this is the thing. You don't need to do these things in the classroom. That's number one. Number two, you can do it online. You can create that kind of environment. And whatever happens, it is important for students in the classroom or outside the classroom, be aware. The awareness, what they're doing, what skills they're practicing, what is happening, what kind of changes happening. They need to see the before and after of themselves. And well, you don't need to be focusing on classroom or outer world. Get them to shoot a video in a park. Get them to do a presentation. Say, the weather is beautiful. Look at it. You see what I mean? Sky is the limit. When it comes to practicing Oracy or any skill, sky is the limit. Get them to do the same thing.
Okay, great. There's another question. Could you help me with free materials which can give me more ideas and help me in teaching speaking? I need something which can help me arrange my ideas in an academic way. I'm not sure if you know of any particular source for Oracy materials that might help in this situation.
Well, I can say that, well, we use, you know, and I know, Cambridge Primary Path is a great resource where you will be finding, and for early ages, for toddlers, there is Little Steps, Cambridge Little Step. They're perfect material for implementing. It's already implemented, you just follow. Everything is over there, speaking, active listening, whatever skill you're practicing, it's all embedded. That's something that I can advise.
And I'd just like to say as well, I've just put into the, I'm just putting into the chat the web address of our blog, World of Better Learning, where there's a number of articles, a lot of information there around Oracy, which I think if anyone is interested in delving deeper, we'll give a kind of good further introduction to what we've heard from Ally today.
And there's also, actually, I'm sorry to intervene.
No, not at all.
It was, oh, I think it was in August. I wrote a blog article on how to make students become more, let's say, good speakers. It's for primary, but you can easily apply those strategies into secondary, even high.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question here as well. I'm a public speaker and I'm going to hold a workshop for teenagers soon on public speaking. What 3 tips can you suggest?
Oh, that's a nice one. Okay, what I would be saying is, you're a public speaker, you already do this, but engage with your audience, look them in the eye. I mean, maybe if there's 1,000 listeners, it doesn't matter. I love giving sessions like face-to-face sessions. During the pandemic, I didn't have the chance, but I remember one time having around 800 teachers in a conference hall. And I was going through the conference hall up and down to build that eye contact, because that is the most important thing, number one. Number two, respect. I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, please. I bet you're a very respectful person, but listen to them. Listen to them. I mean, interact, hear their voices. When you hear their voices, you respect them, actually, their well-being. And of course, let's say, the rhetorical techniques. I mean, normally I love that humor in a session or in a talk. I love the humor. just relax and have that humor. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, and just another one is, when is the right time to give feedback, during or after speaking?
That's a really nice one. That's a really nice one. Okay. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't give direct feedback. I wouldn't make them watch themselves and do a self-assessment. How did you find yourself? What can you change about this? Normally, I mean, of course, I'm an examiner as well. I give feedback as well, but in a classroom, because whatever we say, whatever I mean, how constructive it is, it may not be sensible to the student. They might be a little fragile. You can even just do a little video, just giving a tailor-made respond about their performance, or my personal choice is always getting them to assess themselves. Let them see.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're coming very close to the end of the session. There was just one person was asking whether we could have the last slide of references again. I think it might be a little difficult to bring that up, or I'd probably advise that, as I mentioned at the beginning, this session is recorded and will be on YouTube next week, and you'll all be receiving a link to the session after the end of the conference. So that's I recommend going to the recording of Ali, and well, don't zoom through to the end. I'm quite sure many people will want to rewatch it, because there was so much of interest in there. It's quite hard to take everything in, but so hopefully you can be patient and wait for those references. Yeah,
I mean, and on top of everything, I see the chat box. Thank you so much for sending all these lovely messages. I just wanted to, in this session, it was really compact. I just wanted to give you the gist of it, how we can implement it like a fast track, like a crash course. But if you have any further questions, please email me, or we'll get in touch this way or that way.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's all we do have time for today. So thank you so much, Ali, for that.
Thank you
it was
so
a great
much,
session.
Oliver. You're a great host.
Do my best, but this is the easier part than what you're doing. And also, I want to say thank you for everyone who's joined us today.